I'm looking to make money operating a sprinter/cargo van. But which kind of van? What type of van should I get? I'm going to talk about that on this segment of the Gig Geezer. If this is your first time checking out the Gig Geezer, if you're a returning visitor of the Gig Geezer, thanks for coming by. And if you would not mind, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. As you see in back of me, my van is stuffed to the hilt. It is stuffed with cargo, and I'll be explaining this payload in my next segment of the Gig Geezer. I want to take time out to acknowledge a couple of folk whom I met yesterday, September 1st, 2023, while at a gas station in Sumter, South Carolina. Miss Yolanda Edie approached me as I was putting money in the tank, and she mentioned that she's been a subscriber of the Gig Geezer channel since I was doing primarily gig food delivery work. And then a guy came over, Mr. Ron Edie, and we had a very nice conversation, and it was a pleasure meeting them. Knowing that Miss Edie has been a subscriber of mine going back to my doing gig food delivery work, that suggests that she has been checking out my content since the subscriber count was numbering into the hundreds. And so I'm very appreciative of folk who have been checking me out for as long as they have. What I want to do now is segue into the actual content of this segment of the Gig Geezer. It was documented while I was in the state of Virginia this week doing a brokered opportunity, and so we're going to go right into the action. The van that I have is a Ford Transit 250, medium roof, long wheelbase, 148 inches, but it's not the extended body van, whereby you see the one that has a lot more tail, which gives you more capacity, more earnings capacity, more cargo capacity. That's what it amounts to. In fact, if you check out this particular bid opportunity that's out there as I'm documenting this, it originates from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, the very place that I actually picked up where you see these items on top of the pallets. It originates from a screen shop in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and is going down to Florida. There's two stops in Florida. The first is in Jacksonville. The second one is in Fort Myers. The offer amount is $950 or $950, and more than likely someone who's savvy will probably get at least $1,000 for it. Yeah, that's the type. That's what I mean by money. Size equals money. And so people have asked me from time to time, well, what van should I get? And I've often said, get one that you feel most comfortable with and one that you can best afford. But you know what? If I had to do it again, I'd be getting the longest, highest roof van that I could find. Also one that I can best afford too. Because for me, as I have evolved in my sprinter/cargo van ownership and operation, I am doing more brokered opportunities, and they account for about 40% of the money that I've earned this month. But I have found that, as I've mentioned about size equal money, definitely, as in the case of that Winston-Salem to Fort Myers opportunity, the reason why I was unable to find one back in December is because it was very hard to find vans at the time. In fact, I drove 4 hours to Cummings, Georgia to complete the transaction on this van. Perhaps if I waited a couple months, I might have found a longer wheelbase, the same wheelbase, longer bodied van for about the same money. But I got into this at the time I did, and so I'm having to live with this until I can pay it off. Now, what I want to do is go over some of your options when you consider. And the reason why I'm saying you should get you the longest van that you can get and the highest roof van that you can get for your money. I have had people ask me, well, can I make the same money using a Ford Connect van? That's your smaller cargo van. Every company basically has a smaller cargo van that they make. And so using that size equal money analogy, you can only make so much money using a smaller van. If you were to get certain home improvement opportunities, you can't handle loads in which you have 8 and 10-foot slabs of wood. Then again, my van can't handle 16-foot slabs of wood. It can handle maybe 12 foot, depending on how many of them, but 10 is probably going to be the one that I can handle best. Also, you have limited cargo carrying capacity with a smaller van. It's almost like a car, in a sense that most cars, you're only going to be able to put like 1,000 pounds on a car before you start messing up your suspension and or transmission. Okay, so then you may say, I got a cargo van. Okay, I got the Ford 150 van, and I've seen people with the short, squatty van. And this is where I always say sprinter/cargo van. You have models in which you have the short, squatty, low roof. The chassis is a half-ton. It's a half-ton chassis as opposed to a 1-ton chassis. So therefore, you're not going to be able to handle certain payloads. And so, while some people are able to make it work, you are limited. You still are limited. Just like, as I've said, I am limited even with my van. Then you have your medium roof vans like mine. The problem I face is when you have stacked pallets, and when your stacked pallets are when the stacked pallets are too high, sometimes you have to take off the top level. Or, for example, if you have a home improvement opportunity and you have a large pallet of potting soil, you may have to take off a couple rows so that when they load in by forklift, it doesn't take off those top 2 rows. So that's where the higher roof van comes in. The medium roof van is like about 6 foot high. I'm 6'3", so I got to kind of duck in. The high roof van, I can walk inside that. It's like 6.5 foot. It's about 78 inches high. So that's 6 foot 6 inches. So you should be able to handle most opportunities, but also with that longer wheelbase, the longer body, you can handle like that 160-inch pieces of cargo that sign shop is looking for, because that's 160 inches is about 13.5 feet, and so the longer wheelbase van is going to handle that. Translated, more money. Of course, the next step from a sprinter van is a box truck, and that's where you really enter into the transportation/trucking type money. This is the wonders of the editing process. There was some content that I missed while talking in the state of Virginia, and so what I want to do is give a little more clarification as to, at least based on my experience and my observation of the type of vans. When you speak of the smaller cargo van like the Transit Connect, you're talking about something that has the least something that has the least payload capacity. We're talking about at most one standard size pallet being able to fit in there. A standard size pallet is going to be 48 inches by 48 inches. That is typically what I've seen based on load opportunities and cargo descriptions of pallets. 48 by 48 is going to be that standard measurement. Then we're talking about the low roof van. I met someone, at least doing a bungee opportunity several months back, who operated a lower roof van. And he told me at the time that he was doing over the road lifestyle work. And he said he's managed to make it work. So that means he's been able to fit 2 standard size pallets and whatever else he can do in order to make his money. Now, the problem is that you have to know your capacities. You have to know exactly the measurements in order for that to work. It's the same thing with the medium size. It's the same thing that involves with the medium roof vans. The medium roof vans can carry 2 standard pallets. And now, before I go any further, The standard pallets, again, that is the standard measurement, but depending on the size of the pallets that are going to be loaded, you may be able to fit more pallets, and that's the case back here. In fact, I've got 3 pallets in this van, but then a 4th pallet I had to break down and put the items at the very top, which you see back here, at least that single box right there, that is from me breaking down a single pallet. Now, the high roof van, I would not have had to break down that last pallet. The high roof van can easily handle 3 standard pallets. And again, based on the measurements of other pallets that may be involved, they may all be able to fit in that van and no problem. So, hopefully I've kind of answered the question with that. As I mentioned, if I had to do it all over again, I would have got the longer body Ford van with the higher roof, with the high roof. I never considered the small Connect van, but I certainly didn't want to get the smaller Sprinter van with the shorter wheelbase. I never wanted that. I did want the long wheelbase. I just didn't get the longer body. But anyway, another thing that, by the way, if you like the content that's been provided in this segment of the Gig Geezer and any other segment of the Gig Geezer, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. Another thing you want to consider with your van, and I rarely have seen people talk about that, you need to know your capacities. You need to know how much your van can carry. My van, if memory serves me correct, carries about somewhere between 3,685 pounds and 3,875 pounds. But I try to limit myself to 2,750 pounds. So that means about 3/4 of what the suggested max payload is what you can have in this van. The other thing you want to know is your tank capacity, because they'll help you in understanding your gas mileage. This van has a 25-gallon tank. This van gets me consistently now 20 miles to a gallon, sometimes 21 miles to a gallon. So that means my tank range can be in upwards of 525 miles. The other thing is your inner dimensions, because that's gonna especially when you're looking at brokered opportunities, you need to know how much space you got interior. So the numbers typically are like with my van is 120 by 54 by 60 by 72. So that means 120 in length. And when I showed this segment of the Gig Geezer, when I put in my E-Track system, I showed where I've got 10 foot of wood. The primary, the first sheet of wood or first sheets of wood are 8 foot long, and then the next 2 that are kind of fashioned for up behind me are 2 foot. So that's 10 foot of cargo space right there that I know that I have. Worst case, depending on what it is, I can put something in the middle here, and that can get me to about 12 foot. The next one is 54 inches. That's a cross. That's your wheel width. That's the distance between wheel wells. Because if it's too wide, then if you can't turn it to the side, then it can't fit. And then 72 from floor to the roof. That's the height. Other vans have different dimensions, and again, with a high roof, you may have a longer cargo area, but you may have similar width between the wheel wells, but then the roof is going to be at least 78 inches high. So that's another thing that I want to go over. Even when you do consider a van, I know that a lot of people want to talk about, well, I want to make sure, I want to try to get as much information as I can. Like people asking about, well, how much is what type of gas mileage I got? I've already answered that question about gas mileage. Well, what about insurance on the van? Now, I'm going to share this again. I am a licensed insurance agent. I have my own agency. I have my own brick and mortar office. I've been licensed in property and casualty, which is the insurance that would cover, which would be the category of insurance for auto, and then like your commercial general liability and cargo insurance. I've been licensed, do that for 10 years now, going on 10 years. I've been licensed overall for over 20 years. Insurance is based on a lot of factors. Regardless of what people say, You know, I remember someone, and I mentioned it before in the other segments of the Gig Geezer, someone gave me a hard time about telling me how I got ripped off, and that, well, my insurance is this much because here in Illinois, and you need to go and look. You really need to go look around and all that stuff. Well, every market is different. Every state is different. In the insurance industry, there is no single national governing body. Every state kind of polices themselves, but there's cooperation among all the states. And so with every state being different, companies file rates accordingly according to each state. It's not consistent. The next factor that affects insurance rate is your driving history, your claims history. So if you have a bunch of tickets, that's going to affect your rates. If you have a bunch of claims, even if it is roadside assistance, you have too many of those, that can affect your rate. In fact, it may affect you even getting coverage with certain carriers. Another factor is going to be your age. The younger you are, the more you pay. When you get the geezerdom status like me, you pay more as well. Another factor that is used is your insurance score. Your insurance score is a combination of your driving history and your credit. So as it is right now with certain markets, and what I mean by markets, the insurance term markets means types of insurance. So for example, if you're trying to get homeowner insurance, in the state of South Carolina, it's hard right now to get homeowner insurance unless you are bundling both personal insurance, personal auto with homeowner. So as I mentioned, your insurance score is a factor, your claims history is a factor, where you are is a factor, the type of coverages that you're getting is a factor. And what I mean by coverages, your limits in terms of if you're getting your authority, you have to have a minimum of $300,000 combined single limit liability, along with $50,000 cargo insurance. But most places, if you're going to do business with them, they're going to want you to have $1 million liability, and then $100,000 cargo, and then carry also a $1 million, $2 million, $1 million/$2 million commercial general liability policy. So what can affect the rates in addition to the limits? Your deductible. If you have a higher deductible, you may have a lower rate. If you have a lower deductible, you're likely to pay more for your coverage. So those are the general factors that affect your insurance, and only your licensed local insurance agent can really give you more accurate numbers when you're looking to get an idea on what your expenses may involve with your van. Another question that people ask is about taxes and all. That's now, depending on what you're talking about, in South Carolina, for example, you got to pay property tax before you get your license plate, and then you got to pay for your license plate. What else? Some people ask me, I know a lot of people ask me questions about, like, should I set things up as an LLC or my name? Well, that's your choice, but the idea with the LLC is that the rule of thumb with the LLC, if you were to be involved in a situation where somebody tries to sue you, the advantage of an LLC is that they can only get the assets or the worth of the company. They can't go after your personal assets in most cases. So, hopefully I've answered a number of questions that people have had on their minds, or me just answering questions that I know that have come my way over the past several weeks and months. And by the way, and if you like the content that's been provided in this segment of the Gig Geezer or in any other segment of the Gig Geezer, hit that subscribe button. Give my content a thumbs up. Share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below.